Hello all, myself Dr. M. Laxmidevi, Associate Professor in the Department of CSCDS at Institute of Aeronautical Engineering. In this video lecture, we will discuss some of the definitions and terminology which are there in Module 2. So, in Module 2, we have different concepts like we have different statements like unconditional control structures or statements, then conditional control statements, and so on. Apart from this, we also have loop statements. So we are going to see the definition of loops. So what is loop? So mainly module 2 is about control statements. So in control statements, we have different statements like decision making statements. First one is decision making. Then we have looping statements or loop statements we have. Then after that we have unconditional control structures or statements. So we are going to see the definition of each one in detail. So here we are going to see the definition of loop first. So define loops. In programming language, loop is a control structure which allows a set of instructions to be repeatedly executed until a specified condition is met. So these are essential for automating repetitive tasks and iterating over data structures. That means if you want to execute a certain set of statements repeatedly for a certain number of times, then we can implement the concept of loops. So for example, so in C language we have different types of loops. One of the loop is for loop. So for loop is a control flow statement which allows the code to be repeatedly executed in a specified number of times. For example, this is a Python program. The same set of statements you can write in C programming language also. So this is a program which is written. So I am not given the complete program here. So just the logic which is used for loop that I have given here. So this program will print the numbers from I is equal to 0 to I is equal to 4. So in Python program, so we can use for loop in this way for I in range 5. So range print I. So it will print the value of I from I is equal to 0 to 4. So starting from 0, it will print. So I is initialized to 0 and the last value which it will print is I is equal to 4. So similar for loop you can write in C programming language also. The syntax to write in C program is for I is equal to 0, I less than 5 and then I plus plus print I. So instead of print, we have printf statement. Along with that, we also have format specifier, %d and then comma. So this is how you can do it in C programming language. Next one is while loop. One more loop which we have in C programming language is while loop. So this is also a control flow statement which repeatedly executes a block of code as long as a given condition is true. So this is a piece of code which is implemented by using while loop. Suppose we want to print the numbers from I is equal to 1 to 4. I is equal to 0 to 4. So that you can do by using this while loop. So while loop syntax is first you need to initialize. So we need to take a looping variable. So from where that value has to be printed. So that has to be initialized. So I is equal to 0. Suppose we want to print the numbers from I is equal to 0 and so on, I is equal to 4. So initial value of I is 0. So for that we need to initialize that variable and then we need to check the condition. So by using while loop, inside the while loop, so after the while keyword. So here while is a keyword. So that means it is a reserved word. We cannot use it for any other purpose. So while is a keyword here. So inside this we have written a condition. So condition is I less than 5. So I less than 5. So here we have two operands and one operator we have. So output of this will be evaluated to either true or false. That is true means 1 and false means 0 here. So if it is true, it will go on executing the statements which are there inside this curly braces. So inside these curly braces, we also need to increment the looping variable, update the looping variable. So I value is incremented by 1. Otherwise, it will go on printing this I value 0, 0 and so on. So it will not reach this condition at all. So therefore, inside this, you need to also have an update expression also. So for a while loop is a control flow statement which repeatedly executes a block of code as long as the given condition is true. But the syntax for while loop and for loop is different. Next one is do while loop. So do while loop is also used in C programming language. So similar to while loop, do while loop executes a block of code at least once. The main difference between for loop, while loop and do while loop is, so for loop and while loop, they will execute the statements only if the condition is true, but do while loop will execute the block of code at least once before checking the condition, and then it will repeatedly execute as long as the given condition is true. For example, this is a simple program which has been implemented by using do while loop. So we have initialized the value of I is equal to 0. Then after this, we are using the keyword do. Then we are printing the value of I. So after this, we need to increment the value of I. After this, it will check this while condition. So this I value is printed first. It will print I is equal to 0. After that, it will check this condition. So this is how you can implement the do while loop. So do while loop executes a block of code at least once and then repeatedly executes it as long as the given condition is true here. Next one is for each loop. For each loop concept is not there in C programming language. So we have it in other programming languages like Python and Java. So this is an example of Python programming language. For each loop is used for iterating elements of an iterable object such as arrays or collections without using an explicit loop variable. So for example, if you have this list which is assigned to the variable fruits. So with the help of, so by using for each loop, for fruit in fruits, you can print fruit. If you give this, if you write this in this way, then it will print each value which is there in the list. Each element of the list, one by one, it will be printing. Next one is nested loop. Nested loop is nothing but a loop inside another loop is called as nested loop. It is often used for iterating over multi-dimensional arrays or performing complex iterations. For example, this is a nested loop, for loop inside another for loop. So this is called as nested loop. You can use any combination of loops. For loop you can use while loop also, or you can use do while loop also. So this is one for loop inside nested or placed inside another for loop. So this is a program to print the value from, so it will print I and j values in each iteration. So initially it will print, so for int I is equal to 0, it will enter this for loop, and then after that it will execute this, it will print this statement until this condition becomes false. So after that again it will check this condition. If it is true, then again it will enter the inner for loop. Then again the value of j is initialized to 0 and it will start printing the value of I and j for the condition which is less than which is given here. So in this way, nested for loop you have. Next one is define entry control loop. So entry control loop is also a loop where, so based upon the condition tested. So when the condition is checked, based on that we have two types of loop. One of them is entry control loop. So in entry control loop, the condition is tested before the body of the loop is executed. So if the condition is initially false, the loop body will not be executed at all. So for example, so for loop and while loop. So these are entry control loop because starting itself the condition is checked. After that it will enter the block of code. So block of code will be executed afterwards. Next one is exit control loop. So exit control loop example is do while loop. So in C language we have do while loop. So first whatever the statements are there in do loop, so inside the do, so those statements are executed. After that the condition is checked which is given in while loop, inside this while loop. So therefore it is called as exit control loop. So condition is tested after the execution of the loop body. The loop body is guaranteed to execute at least once, even if the condition is false from the beginning. So even if you have here I less than 0 also, so 0 will be printed here. Why? Because this step, first whatever the statements are there inside this, so those statements will be executed. After that this condition is checked. So therefore, this is how you can define exit control loop. Next one is define decision making statements in C language. So decision making statements is about deciding the order of execution of statements based on certain condition, or repeat a group of statements until certain specified conditions are met. So there are different decision making statements which are supported in C language. For example, one of the statement is if statement. So we have if statement, then we have if else statement, and then after that we have switch statement also. So these are the different statements which are supported, which are there in C language to handle decision making process. So first, let us see the first one, if statement. So if statement is used to execute a block of code if a specified condition is true. So for example, consider this simple program. So in this program, we have declared one variable and its value is assigned to 10. And then after that, so this is the decision making statement. This is if statement. So this is the syntax of if statement. If is a keyword, and inside this parenthesis we need to write the condition. So conditional output of this, or the outcome of this expression, will be either true or false. So if it is true, then the statements inside these curly brackets will be evaluated. If it is false, then it will go to this line and the program will terminate. So this is how in this if statement executes. So output of this program will be, so here since we have assigned the value 10, so this condition is true here. So 10 is greater than 0. The output of this is 1. So therefore it will enter this block and then it will print this one. The number is positive. So next, decision making statement in C programming language is if else statement. So this also requires a condition. So let us see what is if else statement. So if else statement is used to execute one block of code if the specified condition is true, and it will execute another block of code if the condition is false. So there in if statement we did not have this line. That means if the condition is true only, then only the block of code will be executed. So there is no else part there. So here we can consider the else also, else statements. If the condition is true, then one block of code will be executed. If the condition is false, the other block of code will be executed. Suppose consider the same program, but here we are assigning a different value. Suppose num value is minus here. So with the previous if statement, if minus 5 is greater than 0, so this is false. So therefore this will not be printed and the program will terminate. So we will not get any output on the screen. But in order to handle this, we also have another else part also. If the number is greater, else means if the number is greater than 0, so this is false. So therefore it will enter this one, else part it will check. So and then these statements will be executed, and the output on the screen is the number is non-positive. That is, it is not positive. Next one is nested if statement. Nested if statement involves placing one if statement inside another one. So nested if is nothing but one if inside another one. So by the use of this, we can check multiple conditions. So for example, there are two numbers, number 1 and number 2, 5 and 10. If we need to check number 1 is greater than 0, number 2 is greater than 0, then we can do this by using nested if statements. And then inside this, we are printing the statement both the numbers are positive. So one if inside another if is called as nested if statement. So these are the different decision making statements in C language. So one of the decision statement is switch also, switch statement. It is used to select one of the many code blocks to be executed based on the value of an expression. So it is used to select, if we have many number of choices, then we can, if in a program we need to have, if there are multiple conditions to be checked, so then in that case we can use the switch statement. So it is used to select one of the many code blocks to be executed based on the value of an expression. So for example, in this program, so we have written a switch statement. So inside this, it takes the expression. So this is the expression, if grade is equal to B. So if this expression value matches with any of the case labels, so if grade is equal to B, so this is matching with this case. So therefore, the statement after this will be executed. So then after executing this, there is a break statement here. So here in order to implement the switch statement, we need to use break statement as a keyword. Case is a keyword here. Switch is also a keyword here. Default is also a keyword. So default is optional. You can use or you can skip it as also. So there is not, you can skip also. So therefore after this, for this program, the output will be good. So good will be printed on the screen. Next is define decision making statements. So one more statement is conditional operator statement. So conditional operator statement, this is operator which we can use for conditional operator statement. This is also called as ternary operator. This operator is also called as ternary operator. This is a, so if-else statement which are written in 3 to 4 lines of code. So if-else statement can be replaced by this ternary operator. So that is the use of this. Let us see with the help of program. So in C, conditional operator is also known as ternary operator. It is the shorthand way of writing an if-else statement. Same program which you can implement by using if-else. So that can be replaced with this conditional operator, and that can be implemented in a single line. It provides a concise way to evaluate a condition and choose one of the two expressions to be evaluated based on whether the condition is true or false. So for example, consider this program. So suppose we have two variables A and B. So A is assigned a value 5 and B is, so this is the ternary operator, a conditional operator. So its syntax is this one. First we need to write the condition here. So here we have written the condition. Condition to be checked is A is equal to 5. So if this condition is true, so output of this conditional expression, it can be true or false. If true, then this block will be evaluated. If it is false, then this block will be evaluated after the colon. Whatever statements we have, whatever expression we have, these statements will be executed here. So after this we have 3 and here we have 2 here. So A is equal to 5. So A is equal to 5. So A is equal to, value of A is equal to 5. So 5 is equal to 5 is true here. So this is true means, so output of this will be 3. So this value is assigned to the variable B here. So value of B variable is 3. So that will be printed on the screen. So in this way, you can use conditional operator statement. Next, in programming language, we have one more concept called as unconditional control structures. So unconditional control structures or statements. So these are those statements which transfer the control unconditionally. That means they always execute a certain action without checking any conditions. So let us understand this with the help of program. So there are different statements which we can which comes under unconditional control structures. The first one is go to statement, then we have break statement, continue statement. So we'll analyze one by one, we'll see one by one. First one is go to statement. Go to statement, it allows the program to jump to a label statement in different parts of the code. So wherever the label is there, so go to followed by label. So wherever the label definition is given, so there the control will be transferred. So go to statement, it allows the program to jump to a label statement in different parts of the code. For example, this is a program. So in this program, we have declared a variable and initialized with 0. So this is the label. So this is the label here. Label followed by colon, and then this is a label definition. So inside this, whatever is there, this is the label definition. We are writing one printf statement and then incrementing the value of I. So then here we have written the if condition here. If this condition is true, then if the condition is true, then this statement will be executed. So here we have written go to followed by the label name. So whenever we see the go to and then label followed by semicolon. So wherever this label name is there, so there the control is transferred here. So after this, whatever statements are defined here, so those statements will be executed. So in this way, go to statement performs. So it is not a good practice to make use of go to statement. We have seen that there are several disadvantages of using go to statement. Next one is break statement. So break statement is used to terminate the execution of a program, of execution of a loop or switch statement immediately regardless of the loop condition. So break is used in switch statement, and also it can be used in any of the loop to break out of the loop. So for example, consider this program. So here we have declared one variable I is equal to 0, I less than 10, I plus plus. If I is equal to 5, so this program will print from I is equal to 0, and then after that it will print I is equal to 1. So initially 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 will be printed. After that, when I is incrementing, I value becomes 5. So this condition becomes true. So when I is equal to 5, so there is a break, it will enter this block and then break statement is executed. So whenever it sees the break, this line, then control will come out of the for loop. So this break statement has to be used inside any loop also, any loop only. So therefore, this is the output of this program. Next one is continue statement. Continue statement is also used in loops only, such as while loop, for loop and do while loop, to skip the rest of the code inside the loop for the current iteration and proceed to the next iteration. So it skips certain part of the code and then it does not terminate out of the loop. It does not come, the control does not come out of the loop, but the remaining part of the remaining iterations of the loop are continued. It provides a way to selectively bypass certain parts of the loop's code based on a condition. Now let us see the program. So in this program, we have declared one for loop we have used I is equal to 0, I less than 5, I plus plus. So if I is equal to 2, so if this program will continue to print I is equal to 0, will be printing first line, then after that 1 will print, then after that when I is equal to 0, this condition becomes true. When this becomes true, it is continue statement. Continue in the sense it will skip this one and it will go to the next one. So it will not print this one. Then after that I is equal to 3. So I is equal to 3 will be printed. In this way, continue statement will be executed. So thus we have seen the different concepts of control statements in this video lecture. In the next video lecture, we'll see some more definitions in C programming language. Until then, thank you.
Like, share and subscribe. Hit the bell icon for more updates.